Ooh, this one's a good one. I'm so excited. iOS 13.2 Developer Beta 2 is here, and with it, new emojis with Unicode 12, 59 new emojis, and most importantly, camera controls. The forbidden camera controls that Apple has never allowed us to do in 12, 13 years of iPhone are finally here. We can adjust resolution and frames per second within the camera app. And it's not a very large update, under 500 megabytes, but it comes with a ton of little refinements and changes that just make me proud to be an iPhone user. And I got about 2 gigabytes of storage back before and after updating, and that's always nice. So first and foremost, with Beta 2 on the right, let's take a look at that keyboard. And there is now a new emoji keyboard button. It features a sillier looking, grinning emoji there, so they adjusted that. Actually jumping into the keyboard, it's not immediately apparent, but there are 59 new emojis here. They're scattered around. As for faces, there's one new yawning face, so not a lot there, but the full list of them can be found on emojipedia.org. So it has a lot of accessibility emojis, people with disabilities, new animals here, some foods, ice. Apple kills the game at emojis. That's kind of their thing here. So it's always really cool to see them. So a bunch of new ways to express yourselves. Just remember, when you send these to someone else that's not an iOS 13.2 Beta 2, they're going to get a question mark emoji. They basically will not be able to see what you're sending them. Otherwise, very cool. We'll be seeing this on a wide release soon. And there's also a new skin tone picker for multiple people. Before, that was not an option. Now you select on them once, and you can go ahead and adjust the skin tone color of individuals. It's kind of cool that there is that customization, and as you can see, it's all custom. And yet another secret internal mode has been found in referenced AirPods 3 by developer Rambo. It actually shows you how to adjust the noise cancellation options in the control center, so we can assume that there will be some new controls beneath the volume platter after you haptic touch on it in regards to the new AirPods 3. I'm really excited for these. And I'm guessing because of the amount of these references, we may actually see these AirPods 3 being announced at the event on October 29th this month. And the camera app. So this is where things start to get exciting. Actually jumping into it, you'll notice the lag is gone. For whatever reason, it was present there on newer 11 Pro devices, and now that's been resolved. So the camera app will launch instantly now, which is nice. And this is something that hasn't been on an iPhone ever, is the ability to change the resolution and frames per second directly from within the app. I still think the interface is a little finicky. You know, no one would really know that this is here unless you accidentally clicked on it. So I hope that Apple gives this its own little interface, but even so, it's amazing. The fact that you can do this, we've been begging Apple to do this for the longest time. And this works both on the front-facing camera, on the rear-facing camera, it doesn't really matter. You can adjust the frames per second, and this works on slow-mo as well here. So super, super cool. Here it's just 120 and 240. So I'm glad that Apple has finally added that, and I'd like to see expanded support with time. In the music application, 3D or haptic touching on a song reveals a new interface, much more aesthetically pleasing and less scrolling involved here. So I like that update, matches the new one in the TV app. Also jumping into now playing and going into next up, when you actually click on the randomize button here, there's a nice new animation there. Did you catch it? Where everything gets shuffled up instead of just flipping just like that. So Apple made that one a little bit prettier. Just some nice attention to detail here. In the music app, when going from up next to history via scrolling, there's now haptic feedback, letting you know when you're going from one section to the next. Previously, there was not. A change I appreciate very much is in the app switcher. So Apple updated the animations here. Notice when I swipe down, the cards start moving. And when you swipe up, they appear faster at your fingertips, so you can actually swipe and clear apps faster than before. Apple continues to tweak the volume HUD. The timing has once again been adjusted, and now it disappears off screen even faster. So being clicked at the same time, it intrudes on your content less now. Also, when putting your device in silent mode, the text is no longer in red, the on text. It's now just gray. Apple has updated the sound of 3D and haptic touch when it enables. So for example, in the control center, the old version sounded like this. And the new version goes like this. So it's more muted, but sounds good. And in the control center, when you've got connected devices, they will now appear smaller up above the volume platter. And another very good example of Apple's attention to detail is that they've adjusted the screenshots to actually not be as bright when in dark mode. So on the left is regular dark mode. It's a very bright white flash of light. Now it's more muted, so it's more gray. And side by side, Definitely not as bright here on the right with dark mode enabled, saving your eyes in that darkness. In the control center, the blank icons that weren't showing up before on beta 1 have been fixed, so everything's working properly. The accessibility shortcut has a new icon in the platter when haptic touched here. Also, the text has been fixed in the control center that was showing up dark, now more legible. After updating to 13.2 beta 2, on the setup menu, you'll see this screen, and this is new. So this is where Apple asks you if it's okay to share your audio recordings with Siri and your HomePod with them. And this was a big scandal, so they finally added an option to opt out of this. Previously it was all opt-in essentially. And within settings, the Siri and search settings, there's an option here for Siri and dictation history. So jumping inside of here, you can delete your Siri and dictation history. Also within the privacy settings in analytics and improvements, there's a new option here for improved Siri and dictation. And this is also in the same regard, so they won't be able to hear any of your conversations once you disable that. On the home screen, a number of changes to the way 3D and haptic touch works. For example, on news, rearrange apps is now edit home screen. And this applies to all apps, easier to understand. There's also a new option to directly delete the app right here, and it brings you up to the prompt to delete it much faster than holding it and then waiting for it to wiggle or editing and then selecting the little X button. When in that wiggle mode though, the done button is back to its original look, so translucent now, no longer grayed out. And also when 3D touching on anything, I noticed the animation is slightly different. When you leave this, it's a little bit faster to get back to the normal state. So the animation isn't as drawn out. Get back to your content a little bit sooner. I also noticed when haptic touching on apps, there was a strange border. Now it's been fixed on beta 2, so I'm glad they cleaned that one up. And I also noticed that on the same row of apps, selecting a third-party app here, the share and edit buttons have been swapped, so easier to edit as it's closer to your finger. On beta 2, a smart battery case now actually shows up as a smart battery case on the 11 Pro series. Previously, it just said N and then a bunch of numbers. And this is in correlation with news that Apple is working on a smart battery case for the new 11 Pros that was leaked in an earlier beta, so that will be coming soon. And I think this is further confirmation that that will be happening. In the widgets page, Apple has cleaned up the bottom, so there's no longer this weird spacing. They added that in the last beta. It's now more compact. And when going to turn your iPhone off, the menu is now a blurred version of your iPhone wallpaper, no longer just black. So a little bit cleaner in there. In Maps, when viewing a destination, the directions and flyover buttons are now full width, so easier to click. A number of changes in Safari. When actually looking at a link preview, you no longer have an option to hide or show the link preview. It's baked into the interface up here, and you can show and reinstate it or hide and reinstate it without leaving that interface. Also, when clicking into that preview, notice there's a new bounce animation, which is quite nice. Also, a number of changes to the website options. So first off, the options are now segmented off. They have these barriers. And going into reader view, a number of changes here. First off, the fonts are hidden away, so it's not this huge list of text. You now go into a separate submenu for the fonts, which is more compact. And also you now have an option for website settings, where previously you did not. You had to leave the reader view to get to those. Also within the tab view on Safari, the background is once again the color of your iPhone wallpaper, not just the solid black. Also within the share sheet, a couple of updates here. So the X button has once again been meddled with. Apple cannot make up its mind. This has been changed at least 5 to 10 times throughout the iOS betas. Just why? Why is it so special? And going into use as wallpaper, the iPhone is no longer as thick. It's now streamlined in an actual normal iPhone glyph. Within the TV app, when in a show, the add button on the top right is more user-friendly. In automations, when setting up an automation, the check mark is now smaller. And CarPlay now looks different. On the bottom here is 13.2. The album art is now smaller. They've adjusted the controls and the text, made it so you can actually see, the entire length of the song here, and adjusted the positioning of the buttons. Overall, cleaner. And a couple older ones from the first beta. Here's a now sharing prompt, which introduces you to dual audio, letting you know that that is possible. And one in the music application that introduces you to timed lyrics, which allow you to sing along to the song. Okay, and after running the Geekbench, here are the results. So multi-core score 3432, single 1331, and previously the scores were lower. So on the multi-core, more of a difference here. So I've been using the 13.2 beta now for a week since it came out, and I really don't have anything negative to report aside from a couple of bugs. I've had the volume HUD bug where it would stick and just not go away no matter what. I don't know why that was happening, but it doesn't seem to be happening anymore on this latest beta in Spotify. Performance is great. Like, Apple is killing it with the updates. They're releasing them so fast and furious. And with all these little tiny quality of life updates, like in the camera app, I'm so excited to be an iPhone user. Like, I cannot wait to see what happens throughout the year with 13.3, 13.4. Apple will keep adding these little features. And this is only iOS 13. iOS 14 is coming out next year, and it's supposed to be the big one with cross-platform apps. Apple, keep killing it, please. Although I would like a split screen mode, and possibly for Siri and phone calls not to hijack the entire display. A little tiny interface up on top or towards the bottom would be really cool. Other than that, the iPhone is really growing into quite a beast. Okay guys, thanks for watching. There it is, iOS 13.2 Beta 2, a much needed quality of life update, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Peace.